Welcome to Uplift, inspiring stories to uplift the world. I am Gemma Serenity Gorokov, your host, and today we have Drew joining us. I'm so happy and grateful because he was referred to me by Carrie Lewis, who is a very, very dear friend of mine. And the quality of every connection is truly out of this world, even though, well, in this world. All right. Drew, thank you so much for joining us. What do you have in mind as an amazing, uplifting, and inspiring story to share today?
So just a little background on me real quickly so that it has some kind of context, right? I am a peak performance, flow state activation, and plant medicine coach. So in other words, what I do is I help people to more easily operate more consistently at elevated states of consciousness. In other words, I'm an energy worker in a lot of ways. So I help people to manage their energy much more effectively. And when I started going down this road, I attracted being a Lyft driver. And at first, I was wondering why. And then the second or third person got in my car, and I realized right away it was going to be practice for me because I was going to have to learn how to not only manage my energy, but also pick up on where other people's energies were, because people were just going to be jumping in my car off a Lyft app who came from who knows where, right? So about a month or so in, I picked up a gal that at the University of Michigan Hospital, and she was really low energy. It came out to my car with a walker. It took her 4 minutes to come out to my car. It's only about 30 feet to get to the car. So you can imagine how slow she was walking. And I grabbed her walker and I threw it in the trunk and I pulled up where we were going on the app. And I was going to have her in the car for an hour and 20 minutes. And for a lot of people that are energy sensitive, that might not be an actually positive, considered a positive ride, right? But I thought, okay, I'm just going down this road now. This might be interesting. So when I got on the highway, I just focused on turning up the energy volume. I just ramped it up and didn't say a word. And we were about 20 minutes in, and I noticed she was sitting up straighter and straighter. And when I first got in the car, she actually said, "I'm going to need some help when I get home." I could hardly hear her, but she said that. And so as I was watching, we got stuck in traffic. And then she started asking me questions about the traffic. And then she started asking me questions about driving for Lyft. And I thought, okay, we can engage now because she's engaging with me. I knew I couldn't instigate the conversation, right? So I just started telling funny stories. That's all I did. And then she started telling me funny stories. And for the next hour, all we did was share funny stories. And by the time I dropped her off at her daughter's house, she jumped out of my backseat, probably faster than she's moved in years, grabbed her walker and literally jogged. For her, it was jogging for sure, around the front of my car going, "Okay, Drew, thanks for the ride. Have a great day."
How amazing! How
And
amazing!
I was like, I started laughing, Gemma. I was laughing so hard. And at that time, we were doing meetings about once a month with the Law of Attraction group, and then once every 3 or 4 months we do a potluck dinner. And I had a potluck dinner coming up that Saturday, so I thought to myself, I can't wait to share this story. And so we get to the potluck dinner, and the facilitators there of the group is there, and a couple other friends. And I told the story, and then at the end, I just said, you know me, like to share a little uplifting energy everywhere I go. And the facilitator, Kevin, looked at me and said, "Did you hear what you just said?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like to share a little uplifting energy." He goes, "Drew, you're an uplift driver."
That
And I
is so
said,
cool.
"I'm taking that." And
Yeah.
I ended up putting signs I gave over 14,000 rides over the course of just over 4 years. And I have literally thousands and thousands of stories of how you keeping your energy level up has a very positive influence on other people. It's one of my favorite stories.
That's fascinating. And indeed, you must have so many stories in just to be recalled at any moment in time, because with that many passengers and that many time, you have actually uplifted the energy of your passengers and yours too at the same time, because you cannot be low and have them high.
Right.
I mean, elevating consciousness the way you have been doing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun to watch. And when I did that, that was now a few years ago that I've stopped doing that. But when I was doing it, it was really incredible how I had so many people get into the car and go, wow, am I ever in the right car today? Or, make comments like that. I had one guy that got in the car, he was on the phone, he had something to do with the NBA, I don't really know what. We were halfway, I was taking him to the airport. We were halfway to the airport when he finally hung up the phone. And I put signs in my car, talked about energy, and he hung up the phone and he looked at the signs and he went, Drew, this stuff works. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I'm a really anxious flyer. And by now, I would be having an anxiety attack, but I am not having one right now. I feel fine. This has never happened to me before. Things like that, when you know how to manage your energy at a elevated level or higher level of emotional frequency, and you know how to not allow anybody else to get into your space, then if you can sustain that, you have an influence, and that energy field will walk or precede you into every environment you go into. So it's pretty important stuff. That's why I enjoy doing it.
It's so real. And you know what is the most impressive? Energy work. I also do Reiki energy healing, either in person or at a distance, because there is also a way to go spaceless, timeless, and just like work on the spirit and the other dimension of the body. And what I noticed is when people come back and tell you, whoa, what is this woo-woo stuff? Wow, it's not real because we cannot see it. And things like that, those who are very, very skeptical about what it is, or I did not feel anything at all. Yeah. Yeah, okay, I get it. And actually, there is nothing more real than energy. It is the only thing that exists and that lowered enough its frequency to become touchable with our body on this earth, in that day and time and space where we are evolving right now. But thinking that because you cannot see it, it is not true, or it is weird, or it is some woo-woo, or whatever it is like, no, the other way around. It cannot be more physical than that.
That's right. I mean, all I do is I suggest to people, look, from a physiological standpoint, everything that happens in your body is an electrochemical reaction. Where do you get the electro from? You're not plugging yourself into the wall, right? It's energy. We get it from the earth, we get it from the cosmos, and you learn how to tap into that Schumann resonance, or the Heart Math Institute calls it coherent energy. There's all sorts of science behind this. It's not woo stuff. And then when you transfer that over to the physiological aspects of things, now I don't know if you really want to read an interesting science book, this is a good one called Stealing Fire. This is where I got my flow state activation coach idea or concept, because they talk in that book all about the physiological changes that take place in your body when you're operating at a really high level. In other words, a flow state consciousness. And when you're in that state, that higher level of peak performance in your physiological, everything changes. Your neurochemical processes change. You go into a completely different mindset, if you will. Instead of operating in beta, you're operating more towards alpha, theta, and even waking states of delta. This is not woo-woo. This is science. It's important.
That's exactly what I was answering my new clients who were just receiving a 15-minute free Reiki session. Like, what's Reiki? Why is that? What's that thing? And one person were even saying, is it spiritual? And I was there, well, actually it is physical.
Yeah.
It's physics, it's quantum physics, because it goes at the smallest level, but it is physical, it is real.
Yeah. And what
Exactly as
most
you
people,
said.
yeah. And what most people don't realize, our thoughts are energy, right? So our thoughts create an energy. And where you're operating in those emotional frequencies has a lot to do with how you feel physically. So when you look at the definition from the guys who wrote that book, they also founded the Flow State or Flow Genome Project back in 2011. It's an elevated state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best. So there's the word: feel our best, perform our best. So it's all about how you feel emotionally, and your thoughts have a lot to do with that. And that's kind of where I lead people down the direction of use your thoughts to activate these emotional frequencies first thing in the day, first thing in the morning, as early as you possibly can, and then use those thoughts, other aspects of neurolinguistic programming that I use, and then teach yourself how to sustain them. And whenever you find yourself out, you can actually get yourself back in. How? With your thoughts, right? So, it's fun stuff to play with, because once you start playing with it, then you really start watching how the universe will just unfold things for you. Like you were talking about Carrie introducing us, right? Carrie's a conduit, just like you and I are conduits. We can be conduits to connect people all over the place. And things like that just start showing up when you're operating at these higher levels.
That's absolutely true. Andrew, can you please tell us a little bit about your life journey? Because I remember when you talked to me a little bit, it's pretty interesting that game between the different worlds, the world of the physical living people and the world of those who are out of body but are still around, and how there was those interaction. Can you share one or two of those stories as well?
Sure. So one of them is that when I started going down this road towards understanding all of this, the first thing that happened was I attracted somebody. So I have a more scientific mind. I'm on the side of the scientific mind people, right? So neurolinguistic programming is in my background. Quantum physics is in my background. People like Tony Robbins, mindset stuff, entrepreneurship. And when I first learned how to meditate, that led to a couple other things, understanding law of attraction, for example, from a scientific perspective. And then I met a world-renowned energy teacher, and he taught me how to tap into frequencies where you can find your guides and all that kind of stuff. And right around that time, I had a couple of friends, close friends, that had made their transition and into non-physical. And within 2 days, 2 nights, actually it was 3 nights, over 3 nights, I had 3 different dreams where they came to me in my dreams and were basically saying, hey, ta-da, we're here, it's cool, everything's fine. And I was blown away by them. I'll never forget them. I just was like, wow, okay, so I'm going down this path. And right around not long after that, I attracted the Lyft experience. And so that 4 years, 2 of those years, by the way, were during COVID. So I'm pretty sure I'm probably the person that was in front of more, let's just say, random people with energy fields that could be anywhere than probably anybody in the world. And that's actually what led me down the road towards, I really need to start teaching what I've done, because I've combined something that's really different. And you were talking about success stories, and so I've got one of somebody that I've worked with in the last year and a half. And I use the Hawkins map of consciousness for a point of reference, right? So I've got a scale or an energy scale, if you will, where I can actually measure where people operate most consistently. And I have a friend that I started working with about a year and a half ago, not officially, just having conversations. And he operated around 100 to 125. So he had experienced homelessness, not judging, he just had experienced it. And he had a pattern where, he'd wake up because he understood metaphysical stuff. He just didn't know how to maintain it. That's all. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. So I'd been talking to him about that. And his pattern was that, he would wake up pretty good and then he'd walk out, something would hit him in the head and he'd start spiraling down and he'd shut down and go into anxiety, blah, blah, blah. Same pattern a lot of people go through, right? Well, about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, I guess, maybe 5 months into using the system that I developed, he came up to me one day and he said, hey, I got to tell you what happened. I'm like, okay, because now he's been getting more good days than bad days. He's not having the same spiral. And he said, I was at work today and I had this thought. And the thought was, I'm really not motivated to be at work today. And then he said to himself, wait a minute, I don't have to think that. I just went, nice catch. I don't have to think that. So he thought, what would happen or how would I feel if I actually was motivated to be at work today? And he thought, well, I'd feel like this, and then I'd feel like this, and then I'd feel like this, and then I'd feel like this. And guess what? All of a sudden he started feeling like this. Right. And he said the rest of the day was incredible. Everything just started lining up. And at that point in time, he had got himself to the position where he was operating pretty consistently around 700. So that's a pretty big jump, right? So that's kind of my target when I'm working with somebody. If we can get you there, things like this happen. But the comment he made was perfect. It was like, I never knew I was that powerful. Is that not beautiful? I never knew I was that powerful. And that's it. That's how powerful you are. And so now, about 3 months later, sorry, about 3 months later, he's operating more consistently around 1,000 on that scale. And it's amazing. It's incredible. I took him to, he had a really hard, I took him to a networking event on Thursday night. He's an astrologer. He's a pretty good astrologer. And I mean, he's a good astrologer. And he's just had a hard time opening up and talking to people. So I had this networking event I was going to, and I said, hey, Andrew, you want to come along? He's like, yeah, okay. So when we first walked in, he was pretty quiet, pretty standoffish. And I just did my thing, introduced myself to everybody. And finally, he starts talking to people. He ended up doing a reading, an astrology reading for somebody that was at the event. And they paid him for it. Like he's never been paid for an astrology event before. We left that meeting and he was like, I can't believe what happened tonight. I said, I knew this would be good for you. Because he's operating up here now. He's like, that was just an amazing experience. For the next 2 days, he was just like, I can't believe it. Now I know what I can do. And I'm like, yeah, because you're operating up here now. No more anxiety. It's all gone.
That's amazing. I'm going to make sure on your episode to publish the actual scale so that people can also know 200 what it is, 500 what it is, 100 what it is, 1000 what it is. Basically, it goes from, I believe it is 150 at the lowest and 1000 because zero is death. Yeah, there is nothing there.
Yeah. It starts at 0, but there is no 0.
No,
right?
because I mean, 0 is really like there is nobody, there is no even, there is not even a spirit to measure. There is nothing there.
Yeah.
It's like no.
Yeah.
But it starts pretty low and it go up to 1,000. But 1,000, what we say, it is bliss. It is God consciousness. It is the highest elevated spiritual evolution possible on that emotional scale.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that doesn't mean we should, Gemma, we should probably say also very clearly, That doesn't mean that even if you're operating there, you don't walk out and the world doesn't slap you in the face with something, right? You're still going to get hit with contrast. But that's what we're here for. We're supposed to be sifting and sorting. You can't know what you do want unless you know what you don't want. So you're going to get some of what you don't want. But the key is to get your awareness to the point where whenever something comes up, oh, I don't want that. Oh, if I don't want that, what do I do want? And focus over here, right? And that's what operating at that, what you're talking about, the God level consciousness, this enlightened state. It just, you don't focus on the stuff that you don't want anymore. You just catch it and move to the next. What I do want. And that's your power. That's where your power is. That's why my site is You Are Powerful Beyond Measure, because I'm helping you access your power. I'm not really doing anything other than giving you the map and being a conduit for sure. And even with your Reiki, that's what you're doing. You're being the conduit, but you're allowing them to access their power. And that's where the power is.
That is true. That is absolutely true. And that's beautiful. When we are able to not go on an ego trip because we can help with the energy, but we can stay humble, aware and grateful for the gift we have received, but humble and really recognize I accompany, I facilitate, I hold space. That's really what it is about.
Yes. Yeah. And then teaching others how to hold their space.
Exactly.
And then have them go pay it forward.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I see, this is a community-oriented movement, if you will, from my perspective. I call us conscious community collaborators, right? I mean, it's like we're all in this together. There's nobody outside of us that isn't in this with us. So if we can get more people sort of going down the understanding, because again, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So if you understand it, if you just take the time to do some research Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, research Joe Dispenza's work. I mean, these are medical people, scientists, people who understand your emotional energy has a lot more influence on your physical body, or physiologically, your mental aspects of things, everything that goes on around you than most people even fathom. So that's what we're here for. We're just here to hold it. I'm no different than you or anybody else. Everyone has access to all of this. It's not some special thing. You just have to know how to access it. That's all.
Absolutely, that's right. It's true, because we are all super powerful beyond measure. We all have it, regardless of our circumstances. We still have that power, because it is only one thought away. You think that empowering thought, and before you know it, you are propelled up on that scale, on that energy emotional scale.
You just build momentum.
Yeah.
So it's just about momentum. It's understanding it. And then, like my friend Andrew, he said, what would happen if I was motivated? I thought this, and then I thought this. So he thought 3 or 4 of those in a row that were going up this way to the higher level. And all of a sudden he's got momentum going this way. And once you got momentum going, it's easy. Catching it before the momentum starts and getting your own momentum is the trick. Because most people catch it here and then starts going here. And once momentum starts going down there, right down, right? So I like to use a pendulum a lot, because you can use a pendulum to show it, like to demonstrate. Think this, you're going to get that pendulum spinning really good. Think this, and that pendulum's going to slow right down. So there's a lot of visual stuff that I like to use that show how energy works. And you just can't deny it. It's like, wow, okay, interesting. Yeah.
That's a fascinating topic. I'm so happy and grateful to actually have recorded that conversation and to share it with the audience of Uplift, inspiring stories to uplift the world. What is your website, Drew? Where can people reach out to you?
Sure. You are powerful beyond measure.com. All spelled out. You are powerful beyond measure.com.
Got it.
And I had a website guy very early on say, it's too long. I'm like, I don't care. I got it from my guides. So
You are
whatever.
beyondmeasure.com because it's fine.
Yep.
Amazing, Drew. Thank you so much for blessing us with your presence today.
Thank you.
I'm really, really grateful. Have an
I am
amazing
too.
day.
You too.